Today we're going to talk about how to modify an existing MySQL Workbench model and then synchronize those changes back to the database. This is the data model that we'll be working with today. I've already used this data model to create a database and imported data into the tables. Now let's make some changes to the data model and then sync it back to the database. The first thing I'm going to do is to add a new column to the products table. I'm going to add a column called hasImage to indicate whether this product has an actual image. We'll use tinyInt as the data type and use 1 and 0 as true or false. Mark this column as not null and give it the default value of 0. Next, I'm going to shorten the name of the attributes table. And finally, for the product attribute table, I'm going to rename these ugly auto-generated foreign key names. Now we're ready to sync the changes back to the database. I'm going to go to the database menu and select Synchronize model. We are connecting to a locally hosted database, so all the information here is correct. We can go to next. We don't need anything on this page. Next. This page tells us that the connection to the database is good. On this screen, we select the database schema to sync up to. The schema name is MyDB, so we're good here. This page tells us that it has successfully retrieved the list of tables from the schema. This page is going to tell us how MySQL Workbench is going to synchronize the model against the database. We can see that there are no changes to the categories table. For the products table, we added a new column. So this is the SQL statement that will be executed against the database. Since we renamed the attributes table, it thinks that we're trying to create a new table. That's not what we want. What we want to do is to remap the attributes table. We can do that by going into the table mapping screen and then map the attributes table to the model. Now this SQL statement looks correct. The last thing that we did was rename the foreign keys in the product attributes table. In the SQL statements, we can see that it's dropping those two foreign keys and then adding them back. We didn't make changes to these tables, so we're good. The last line shows that I have a temporary table in my database that doesn't exist in my model. Right now, it wants to drop my temp table, which I don't want it to do. If I click on the Update Model button, it can actually bring the table back to my model. But that's not something I want to do, so I'm going to click Ignore so that it doesn't take any action. The next screen shows the SQLs that we've already reviewed in the previous screen. If I click on Execute Now, it will alter my database. But before doing that, it's a good idea to back up the schema first, just in case something goes wrong and we need to go back. I've already made a backup, so we're good to go. So let's execute. Looks like the run is successful, so let's check our database now. We'll do a refresh. We can see that the attributes table has been renamed. The products table does contain the new column that we added. And the product attribute table has the new foreign key names. Alright folks, so that was a quick tutorial on how to modify a model after the database has been created. If you learned something today, give me a thumbs up. And for more database development topics like this, be sure to subscribe.